Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Veil. I am Adina. I am glad to have you all here this afternoon. I hope you all are well, as am I. I have been busy, but I have been tired, you guys. Honestly, I could have made time in my schedule to come and do these readings because it was on my mind to do so. But I have been so tired. Like, the only time I had time to do the readings is at night, and by 9 o'clock I am asleep. However, I have the energy now. I'm good. I don't know if that has something to do with the moon or something. I think Saturn is in Pisces. I don't know, but it was making me sleepy. So anyways, today I am going to do another true crime reading, and this is going to be on the case of Dawn and Antonio Armstrong Sr., who was ruled to be killed by their 16-year-old at the time son, A.J. Armstrong Jr., Antonio Armstrong Jr., who was 16 at the time. Now, I believe that there's an older sibling who was or wasn't there, maybe, who wasn't there, I think, I don't know, who wasn't there, and a younger sister that was in the home. And allegedly the story, one of the initial stories was that someone broke into the home while AJ and his younger sister were sleeping, killed the parents, ran out. But I think that there were some inconsistencies in the story that I'm not going to try to repeat so that I can get them wrong. And I believe that there was 2 prior trials that either came out in mistrial or something like that. On the 3rd trial is when he, AJ Jr., Antonio Jr., was actually convicted of their murders, and that took place this year. He is now 23 years old when he was convicted and is now serving his sentence. I don't know if he's been sentenced yet, but anyways, oh yes, he's been sentenced. He's eligible for parole August 3rd, 2063. He'll be 63 years old. So I know that the parents did get justice, but there were so many, there were 2 different trials, and there were so many inconsistencies in the trials and the testimonies and everything. So I kind of just wanted to take a look at this because I'm slightly familiar with this case, not 100%, but I have the case pulled up on my computer so that I don't get any of the names wrong, at least, and I can fact check my information as much as I need to do so. So I actually want to do this reading from the perspective of the parents or AJ. Okay, no, because AJ lies. I don't feel like tussling with him. I'm just going to do this from the perspective of the parents and their deaths. I get the impression before I start that only one of the parents may be able to or may be willing to speak up today, because one of them is just so disgusted with what happened. I think that we may be able to speak to the father today, not the mother. Methinks, though. Dawn and Antonio Armstrong Sr. Dawn and Antonio Armstrong Sr. Dawn and Antonio Armstrong Sr. Speak to me about your deaths, about what happened, about who happened, about the results of the trials of your deaths and your son, your baby boy, being prosecuted and accused and tried of your deaths. Don and Antonio Armstrong. Come into my cards. Speak to me. Speak your truths to me. Somebody's soul is filled with so much rage, fire, charcoal burning. I see in my mind the glowing of charcoal burning. I hear weeping, moaning, and gnashing of teeth. I hear screams. This is like what one would consider hell, but it seems more like it is the state of one's soul. Not a location, but the state of one's soul. There is hell in someone's soul. Rage. I feel like it is Don Armstrong. So much anger. I detest that boy. Let's see. Don and Antonio, speak to me about your deaths. The night of your deaths, the circumstances surrounding your deaths, the people surrounding your deaths. Speak. Nine of Cups. One of them is glad to speak. One of them is not. When I said that we may only get one of them, it's because this card fell on the ground when I was gathering my cards, but it was in reverse. And I just got the energy, the impressions of someone saying, I want nothing to do with that. However, there was also one person who wanted them dead, allegedly. One person who thought about it, who fantasized about it, who dreamt, salivated for it, couldn't wait for the moment, couldn't wait for the day. I don't get a sword energy for planning, but this was more like a wish fulfilled. And I wouldn't say that the plans were, it was premeditated per se, because it was, but this was more like, I wish this would happen. I wish this would happen. If I could do this, if this would happen to them, I would be. And then one day it just finally happened. Challenging energy. The 8 of Wands in reverse. These are messages and text messages that were erased. I feel 48 hours prior to the death of Don and Antonio. Like, I don't get that it was premeditated a year prior to, 6 months prior to, but like 48 hours prior to, I think it was. I think it just felt like, now is just the time to do it. Now is just the time to do it. And there were text messages and conversations that were deleted that night. I get immediately before the incident happened, because someone knew that after the incident happened, they wouldn't have that much time to delete messages because they would probably be on the phone with 911. Now, because this is in the challenging position for the parents, I get that these text messages, calls, or something could have come out, could have been beneficial to the parents, but they're in the challenging position. Them being deleted is in the challenging position, and that's prominent for a reason, allegedly. In the past, their success, I hear they spoiled their children, but they didn't consider it spoiling their children. They considered it doing everything that we can, being successful for our children, doing everything that we can to ensure that our children have a good life, doing everything that we can to make sure that our children never want for anything. And to them, that was doing the right thing as parents. But I think that it made their children, one or two or all of their children, spoiled. Their success was the success of, I get one of their children. They didn't feel like they had to really apply themselves in life because their parents were Don and Antonio Armstrong. Me thinks that Antonio put his foot down the night, or I'll say the night, weekend, or the nights. I get 48 hours. What day did this happen on? Why do I get weekend? Hold on, you guys. I'm just trying to get some information. One moment. This isn't that big of a deal, what I'm trying to look up, but I just get weekend. Okay, so I know that this happened in 2016. Okay, it just says that it happened in 2016. Okay. All right. I get 48 hours prior. Antonio Sr., the father, put his foot down about something. Now, I did hear that Antonio Jr. had been getting into trouble in school, may have gotten suspended, expelled, something like that, allegedly. And I think that the father put his foot down and kind of became more stern in the past than he had been because they were fed up. They were tired of Junior's BS. And whatever the father said or did to put his foot down is allegedly what sent those actions and motions within the next 48 hours. As above, again, they got into it, the father and the son and the mother, but it was the father who put his foot down first and initiated the conversation, the argument that made Junior mad. And the mother was absolutely in agreement with her husband because she was fed up. Daddy-O had to step up because Mama Bear was fed up. They both were, but Daddy had to step up. And this disagreement was the disagreement that cost them their lives, allegedly. So below, there was 3 of them alone in the house that night. And one of them Okay, there were 4 of them in the house that night, but only 3 of them are involved in that argument that cost them their life. I get mother, father, son. And since this is in reverse, I get that after the argument, they all went to bed that night. The 3 of them, the 4 of them, everybody in the house went to bed, but I'm speaking about those involved in the deaths because it's 3 people involved and 2 of them are deceased. The daughter isn't a factor at this moment. The 3 of them, after that argument, went to bed, obviously not on good terms because this card is in reverse. One of them was more vexed and willing to actually set some plans in motion that allegedly led to the parents' death. Advice. Now, the 5 of Pentacles for 2 reasons. The actions that took place, I believe, were because of money. Maybe they threatened to cut their son off or put more restrictions on his money or his inheritance if he continued to behave the way that they did. I actually think that they did threaten to either cut him off. They did say that they would, you're cut off now, or they said, they restricted his money in some kind of way. And I believe that that is the action, not the argument, but the action that led to their death. I think that that is what came about in the argument, or what triggered the argument. The restriction on money, or the actual cutting off. And he was 16, but I felt like they needed to do something drastic for him. So I don't think this would have been permanent. I don't think that it was permanent, but to him, it was permanent enough. And I really feel like it was the mother who was driving the discipline. The father was the one who was the face of it, and he was in agreement. But I really feel, I get the energy that the mother was the one that is just like, no, we are going to I am sick of him. And her, yep, I got you. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna say something to the boy because I'm sick of it too. Don't worry, baby. I got it. I'm gonna talk to him. Yeah, you better talk to him because, like one of those dynamics. And I also think that there is, even in the afterlife, some hurt. Obviously, some hurt because their daughter was left without her parents. The oldest son was left without, I strongly feel like the mother really, really, really is upset because her daughter, she feels like her daughter is orphaned. Methinks her and her daughter had a really good relationship. But it's like, you took me away from my daughter. External energy. It's them being killed in their sleep. Because that's actually what happened. It's not allegedly. They were in bed because everybody in the house was sleeping, and they were shot in their sleep. Hopes and fears. Now this is a son card, and I would say this is the youngest son. Now, I get not knowing what he's capable of. Hopes and fears is just not knowing what their son was capable of. So, let me get the outcome. Now, I don't know. I think that this card comes before justice or after justice. But this feels like a justice card. Again, though, I feel like this is the mother's energy. She is a very dominant force. And even in the afterlife, it is her energy that got them justice. Her energy from the afterlife. Her strong energy on the afterlife that brought about tangible results in the physical realm in regards to their case. Now, I'm not going to... I feel like it's like they feel like if I knew what, what Junior was going to do, I don't know if they hugged the daughter that night or hugged the son, but there's a regret, wishing that someone could have been hugged. Didn't get the chance to say I love you because of not knowing what someone was planning to do. 9 of Cups. I'm just going to brush through this really quickly because I got more readings to do for you guys. 9 of Cups. Somebody saw the right opportunity to do this. And allegedly, there were 2 people who were very well aware. I would say in on this. Four of Cups in reverse. 5 of Wands. So I think that's the story, that someone broke into the home. I don't know if one of AJ's stories was that there was some type of fight or struggle with the people who he said came into the home. But he didn't say that at first. He didn't bring up the story about people being into the home at first. So I feel like that's why the detectives initially started to really question him, because they're like, if you had told us that, we could have, closed this case or tried, solved it a long time ago. And it's just like, you saw them leave the house. You didn't do anything. You didn't say anything about that when you called 911. You didn't even sound frantic like people were in the house trying to take things. And I don't believe that anything was taken from the house. So police were trying to figure out whether the story was a flat out lie or whether it was just like an emotion. The child was emotional, and that's why some information was kept or something, but nothing was taken from the house. So immediately, investigators began to feel like the son may have had something to do with it. Now there's something that somebody was unaware about, something that had to do with the money. I don't know if there was restrictions put on the money, if his inheritance or what was put in his trust was taken away or something like that, lessened. What is this 8 of Wands reverse? Challenging. So those text messages that were deleted were not, the authorities either couldn't use them or didn't find them, found them too late, didn't act on something. The girlfriend or the sister? Methinks that them getting married so she wouldn't have to testify, because she had information, text messages, from phone calls or something from that night. So AJ's girlfriend, now wife, was her parent a lawyer, a law enforcement, an attorney or something like that? Somebody felt bad and felt the need to help. Methinks felt bad and felt the need to help AJ. And told them to get married because she had something that, if found, could send the girlfriend to jail too because of her involvement. So measures were taken to get rid of evidence, get rid of text messages, get rid of things, in order to not just protect the son, AJ, because I feel like these were his girlfriend's parents or his girlfriend's friends of her parents or something like that. Measures were taken, and AJ was protected because the girl, his girlfriend, had to be protected. Because whatever they discussed, whatever they had amongst each other that involved AJ, also implicated his girlfriend. She could have been subpoenaed. She could have been brought up on conspiracy charges, allegedly, possibly. So she had to be protected, and by proxy, they had to be protected. And I see that that's why it was so difficult for him to be found guilty. It took 3 trials because there was help. There was sabotage from the beginning, allegedly. I'm going to look into the father, the emperor, to see what he said, what he did to trigger his son. He supported the mother. I get a conversation that they were having amongst each other, and like I was saying, the mama, you know, was the one who was pissed off, and she was the one who maybe did the books, managed the finances, at least in the household. So she did something legal-wise in response to actions that needed to be taken towards her son. And the father is the one, you know, the one who laid down the law, but it was the mother, you know, who was the brains behind what to do with the son. And they were still generous, though. It's not like they cut him out of the will and said you can't have anything. They were still generous. Even in whatever they did to discipline. I don't want to say punish, but discipline him. They were still generous. I get that they just wanted him to do better. I don't know if they wanted him to break up with his girlfriend, but I think they wanted him to break up with his girlfriend. I don't think that they liked her because of the hold that she had on him. Or at least that's what his mother felt like. And something about his relationship with his girlfriend allegedly is what she feels like had him behaving the way he did. Now, this may or may not have had anything to do with the girlfriend. She may have been a part of it, but this may have just been a 16-year-old boy rebelling. But I feel like the mother wanted him to behave a certain way also through the money. I also feel like that's how they disciplined and controlled them, via the gifts and the money and the things like that. You do well, you get this. You act up, we take away this. You try it like you've been trying, and we have to be more strict. But they were still being generous. They just wanted him to act better, do better. And I get, leave that girl alone. Leave the girl alone. They weren't racist, but I don't think that they liked him being with that white girl. All right. I'm going to look into the arguments and then the outcome. As above, temperance in reverse. They argued about money, something that he was supposed to get one day, a trust, an inheritance, the will. He wasn't sure if he was going to be left out of it. They maybe threatened to leave him out of something that he was initially supposed to get with the High Priestess in reverse. This is like family money, insurance, the trust, the will. I think that they threatened, or he thought that because of his behavior and whatever actions they were taking, that he was going to be left out of it. He had been rebelling, you know, and they had been arguing with him for a while, but he was doing whatever he wanted to do, not listening to their guidance and instructions. In school, getting expelled or kicked out of school in some way. And they were at their wits' end with him and were tired of arguing at that point. They had to take some kind of more drastic actions, because at that point, you know, they were tired and there was nothing else that they can do, because he was just wild and doing whatever and being reckless and talking to them any kind of way. And they were having arguments that, you know, it hurt them to have to go through this with their child. And the mother, it broke her heart. It broke her heart. Something that was said, specifically something that was said, or something that she saw, it's just like everything that we do for you, everything that we've done has been for you. So they got into it. Maybe they threatened to leave him out, or they threatened to take away something. Not all of it, though. They were still giving him something. But there were restrictions. You need to do this. So below, Three of Cups in reverse. He had to make a choice. I think that they wanted him to break up with his girlfriend in order to get the piece of money that they took away, because I think that there was things allocated for their kids. I think that they had, the Armstrongs, the parents had their affairs lined up and in order, and all the kids had something, and something was taken away from the son. A piece of it was taken away. Me thinks again that they wanted him to break up with his girlfriend, because I think that they thought that his relationship was a negative influence and was causing him a lot of the problems that he was having. And they confronted him about his latest stunt of getting kicked out of school, and threatened to take a piece of something away from him, financial, material, tangible. And that was what triggered him. And the final outcome, the Strength card. I still get the energy of justice, but that I think is his trial being sabotaged, his first trial being sabotaged. Evidence was overlooked intentionally. The outcome is the strength, the lengths that his mother spiritually and his father spiritually had to go through on the other side in order to ensure that energetically they got justice on this side, providing the spiritual energy for the people on this side that were working on their behalf to actually continue on and not stopping despite the intentional sabotage in the first trial in order for justice to be served. I didn't get the justice card here, and I feel like that's what the strength card is, because justice would have been them getting justice the first time around. Unfortunately, there was intentional sabotage here. Things were intentionally being overlooked, thrown away. This was intentional sabotage in order to keep AJ Jr. out and free, and to make sure that the daughter stayed out and free. And when all else failed and they realized that he was still going to be tried for things, they had them get married, or they chose to get married, because they would have gotten married in any way anyways. This was a Romeo and Juliet love affair situation between these kids. They would have ended up running away and getting married had his parents not pushed him between a rock and the hard place and made him choose between his girlfriend and his inheritance and his family. So I think that justice wasn't here because so many things were done in order to sabotage their justice the first one or two times around. But the third time was the charm. They did get justice, but I think it allegedly had a lot to do with spiritual energy from the parents, from the other side. If they were not such strong people in life and in the afterlife, the third time might not have been the charm. That's the energy I'm getting from Don and Antonio Armstrong Sr. And that is the reading that I have for them today. I release them in peace. Congratulations on your justice. I'm sorry that it wasn't served the first time around, but I commend you for being strong enough to ensure that even on the other side, you still were forces to be reckoned with in order to provide the energy to get justice this time around. Ashe to you. Be blessed, guys.